It takes a lifetime to build a farm.
There is a whole world of people out there that are interested in our way of life.
Ever since I was a kid, I didn't have any other ambitions other than farming. That's all I wanted to do. And that opportunity came when I was a senior in high school. David, my brother, was a freshman at Tech. And a farmer came and wanted us to farm his land. Of course, they were really talking about my dad and granddad, but they let us start farming that land in 1979. And we're still farming that same land today. We were very fortunate when David and I started, of course. We had a granddad and a dad that helped us get started in 1979. They taught us everything we basically know today. Back 40 years ago when we started, it was completely different. Didn't take much money, didn't take a whole lot to get started. Well, anybody today, they can't just walk off the street and start farming. You've either got to marry into it or you got to be born into it. And that's basically the only way you're going to get started, because there's not going to be very many people out there. If you just walk up off the street, you don't even own a tractor, you're not going to get any land to farm. You can lose everything you've got in a year. One bad crop, one bad marketing decision, you add 2 or 3 of those things up, especially if you get held out, or lose a crop or in a drought or blown out. You get 2 or 3 of those in a row, you could lose everything you've built that you've worked for your whole life. The bigger you are, sometimes the harder you fall, and sometimes the quicker you fall. But you can lose everything you've worked for life. Farming has evolved over the years, mainly due to conservation practices. We do a lot of minimum till. We might not plow that ground, but maybe once, twice, every 2-3 years. We do a lot of wheat, graze a lot of cattle on wheat, and then kill it and plant cotton in it and use the cover for cotton. And since we started in '79, most everything at that point in time was row water. And a lot of that was open ditch, gated pipe. Since then, we put in pivots. Back in 1990, we put in our first pivot, and we had a lot of odd-shaped fields that we continued to row water until the drip came into play. So we started putting our first drip in about 10, 12 years ago, and then we put drip on all of those places that wouldn't fit a pivot. Technology over the years has really come in great strides. We were fortunate enough to be in the right spot at the right time. We got to run the very first, prototype round baler that ever came to Floyd County. Back when we were running 3 strippers, 3 module builders, 3 bow buggies, it took about 10 or 11 people to, just to harvest the crop, strip the cotton. Well, now then, with 2 of the round balers, the CS 690s, 3 people went from, 10, 11 to 3. And 2 drivers and 1 guy stacking the bales on the end. It's everything today because, of course, we all know labor's getting harder to find. Farms are getting bigger. You're doing more with less people. Bigger equipment, less people. And you don't realize what it saves. It's high, and everything costs, but you don't realize the savings until you're right in the middle of it.
I had a long history of farming with my family, And knowing that cotton was the #1 crop that we grow out here, that a cotton gin would be a good business to get into. And so I even talked to my brother about it, because being a partner in the farm, I wanted him to be a partner in the gin too. Which, by the way, D&J Gin, when we first bought this gin, we didn't know what we wanted to call it. And our granddad, J.R. Belt, he suggested, why don't you just name it D&J for you and your brother Jody. And so that's where D&J Gin started. The only way we could get into a business of this size was our granddad, J.R. Belt. He loaned Jody and I the money to buy this gin, and then he gave us another note in order to repair it, and that wasn't enough. So the next year, he gave us another big influence of investment, and it took us about 7 years, and we paid every cent back to him. So when we really got started ginning, we had an old gin that needed lots of repair, worked on it for 3 or 4 or 5 years, I mean nonstop. And every dollar that we made went right back into the gin. We were just going to buy the gin for our family, and we were just going to gin our own cotton. And at the time, we thought that was all we needed to do. And we could see the handwriting on the wall. We could never improve the gin enough if we just stayed with our own cotton. So we had to have customer support. We start scratching our heads and trying to decide whether do we want to stay in this business. Because at the time, we were only running a yard truck and 2 on-the-road trucks. We felt like we were handicapped. We could not go past 20 miles to keep our gin running. If we're going to keep this gin and make it a going effort, then we're going to have to expand our horizons. And so we added 3 more module trucks. We had 5 module trucks that we could send on the road. In doing that, we've gained new customers and we've made new acquaintances. And you know, without our customers, we wouldn't be here. A lot of people do business with D&J Gin because of today, because of David, me, and Jody, my brother, and Shonda, Jody's wife, and Sigale, doing the scales. She talks to all the farmers when they call in their modules. But a big key to our success is Leska Durham. She is our cotton queen. She talks to every cotton buyer she knows daily, if not twice a day. Even during the summertime, she makes contact with the cotton buyers, and she will fight, and I've heard her get onto those cotton buyers to get that price up that these farmers needed. And so we owe Leska a big, heartfelt thank you. She is a big reason for D&J Gin's success. Well, generally, the farmers will call us. When they get through stripping, they will call in and turn in their modules, and we'll log them in on a handbook first, and then we'll enter them into the computer. When it's their time to come up, then we send the fleet out, either module trucks or today's, we can pick up round bales with flatbed trailers, drop decks. By the time we get it here, we'll probably gin it within 3 to 5 days. Our primary purpose is just to separate the lint from the seed. We'll put it on the module feeder. The module feeder will chew it up and prepare it to go through the rest of the gin. But the pre-cleaning equipment just helps get most of the sticks and burrs and pin trash out of the lint and the cotton, the seed cotton. Once it goes through those two processes, then it drops into a feeder that prepares it and single locks it so that the gin stand, the saws on the gin stand can catch that lint and pull that lint through some ribs that actually strip the seed out away from the lint. And so the seed will fall into an auger, and then it's weighed, and then it's discharged out into the seed barn or overhead seed storage places. The lint, after it's pulled through the saw, gets blown back into a lint cleaner. And the lint cleaners comb that cotton and prepare it for the bale. Once it goes through the gin and the lint cleaners, then it goes up into a battery condenser and it compacts it, and then it slides down a lint slide where we have to add moisture back to the cotton. Cotton can be pressed easier if it has at least 7% moisture in the lint. Once it comes out of the press, we take samples out of the top and the bottom of that bale, and that goes to the USDA Classing Office in Lubbock, Texas, and that's where the farmer gets graded for his cotton. Once we bag it and tag it, then that bale goes to a truck and we send it to the warehouse. And the warehouse is where it's stored until Lesker gets it sold, and usually it doesn't stay over there very long either. It gets picked up and delivered. You know, each and every one of us at D&J Gin has a personal relationship with our customer. And it takes the farmer first. And without them, all this other businesses that are around Lubbock, Texas, and Plainview, Texas, and Lockney, Texas, would be nothing.
The farming legacy for us is everything. We want to leave and get our kids, which is the generation right under us, started, and we already have. David's son Will farms on his own. I've got two son-in-laws, Asa and Chase. You know, we've got them started farming. They're a part of the operation. Everybody's kind of got their own operation. We do a lot of stuff together, planting and harvesting, just because of equipment and just trying to get it all done as a team. But we couldn't do and we couldn't be without them. Hopefully, you know, the farm and the operation will continue. I mean, David and I, we grew our operation over the last 40 years. And about the time you get it built and about like you want it, then it's about time to pass it down and you step out.
I'd like to see one of our family members take it over and keep it going.
That's what we plan on doing, is one of these days, we want to step out and give it to the next generation.